Hamburg Sustainability Conference 2026 is coming to an end. We now begin our final panel. HSC, Bridging the Gap from Dialogue to Implementation. Please welcome to the stage, Kwanish Uzbekov.
Good afternoon, everyone. Over the past 2 days, we have witnessed amazing examples of the extraordinary human brains innovations. We show the commitments, we show so many young entrepreneurs, leaders, and the CEOs of different companies. And today, I would like to invite for the opening speech, young climate expert, and for the first time, Hamburg Sustainability Conference Youth Ambassador, Xana Maunze.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here before you. My name is Xana, as Kwanish mentioned, and I was called to give a little bit of a reflection on what I thought from the 2 days that we've been here, and it was so much that I couldn't just memorize it. So I decided to just give you a little bit of what's in my heart through a letter that I wrote to all of you, and I hope you appreciated some of my reflections throughout the day. What if sustainability isn't just one destination, but millions of different journeys towards the same future? That question stayed with me throughout the last 2 days, because depending on where you come from, sustainability can mean something different. For some, it means decarbonizing heavy industry. For others, it means protecting oceans, building resilient cities, embracing new technologies, or strengthening multilateral collaboration. For many communities, where I come from in Mozambique, sustainability also means something fundamental, like access to energy, climate resilience, decent jobs, or even having food to eat and trying to find climate finance to boost climate action. So perhaps the real question isn't, what is sustainability, but actually, who gets to define sustainability? And maybe the answer is all of us. This is my first time in Hamburg and in Hamburg Sustainability Conference. And my time here has shown me that what makes HSC so special is not that everyone arrives with the same perspective, but that we are all willing to listen to each other. And I witnessed that especially in the past 2 days. We came together because the world's biggest challenges have become too interconnected for one country, one sector, or one generation to solve alone. I personally believe that climate change is no longer solely an environmental issue, but it's a fundamental economic development issue. And as one, we should all be having this conversation regardless of which sector we come from. And spaces like these remind us that cooperation is not a luxury, it's our greatest comparative advantage. As one of just 15 youth ambassadors selected from more than 6,000 applications from around the world, I felt both humbled and incredibly hopeful, not simply because of the opportunity itself, but because it showed how many young people are already leading the change in their communities. Earlier today, Alma Obama said something that I will carry with me long after leaving Hamburg. She said, "My difference is my power." And those words perfectly capture what this conference has been about, because our different experiences are not obstacles for collaboration, they're exactly what makes it stronger. And as someone who works in climate finance, I was especially encouraged to see finance being recognized as part of this conversation. But especially, after all, ambition without investment remains only ambition. And if we want to build resilient communities, we need to finance initiatives related to sustainability. This morning, we also witnessed the launch of the South-North Commission on Development, at a time when development cooperation is being questioned, reshaped in so many spaces. But it reminded me that collaboration and cooperation, international cooperation, is not becoming less important, it's becoming more necessary than ever. And young people often hear that we are the future. In Mozambique, we often say, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try spending a night with a mosquito. And I believe that we can all do a little bit of change. Even if we think we're small, we have very small power to make a change, we can all do something. We also say different littles make one lot. So if you do a little bit of action towards sustainability within your own fields, collectively we can make a lot. Finally, I would like to thank HSC for creating a platform where young people were not only invited, but we were genuinely heard. And I say this from the bottom of my heart, for trusting us with the spaces to share our voices in the panels, but also co-creating the very first youth session at HSC. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm truly leaving Hamburg Sustainability inspired, and I say this on behalf of all of our youth ambassadors. We want to say thank you so much to Sarah, Nina, Fritz, Elena, Julia, everyone who took such great care of us, and everyone in Hamburg. And I wish all of you to go out and be that mosquito wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Xana, thank you. Xana, thank you so much for your call to action, for your passion that you put to these beautiful words. As it said, being at the same table does not always mean that you can choose what in the menu. But at the Hamburg Sustainability Conference, we are witnessing how young people actually are co-creating this conference. And the next to look how we can translate this passion to action, let me introduce our high-level representatives on conference outcomes. Vice Chair of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference Council and CEO at Kehmet Consulting, Juliana Rotich. And the Vice Chair of the Hamburg Sustainability Council, also International Affairs Advisor and former Vice President and Foreign Minister of Panama, Isabel de Saint-Malo.
How fantastic to be sharing this stage with you, Juliana, and just seeing all of you in this packed room in a second day of a very packed agenda that we've enjoyed so very much. And we have seen that sustainability is not a side agenda. Sustainability is really at the core of everything that we do. And we have seen that in every space, in every conversation, in every accelerator discussion, and we've enjoyed it so much. So I want to really thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this movement and highlight the stakeholder participation that we have seen in every room: business, public authorities, civil society, academia. This needs to continue to happen. This is a great space, and I'm just delighted to be here with all of you. Juliana, please share with us what's your take on these 2 days.
Thank you very much, Isabel. One of the most important signals from HSC 2026 is that sustainability is not just a buzzword, it is becoming more practical. It is moving from declarations into systems. Finance, technology, data, supply chains, markets, and public institutions. It is getting more and more embedded in all these various sectors. All the various discussions from inclusive AI, digital innovation, green industrial transformation, circular economy, local SDG reporting, water resilience, one message was clear. Solutions must work in the real world and under real circumstances with constraints, but also to make sure that we take the opportunity of these constraints to be innovative. And the HSC Youth Ambassador Program also showed us that we need to be mindful of what are the SDG goals that are not given that much attention. Because where attention flows, energy flows towards that, and also financing flows towards that. In one of the sessions with the HSC Youth Ambassadors, they reminded us that SDG goal number 16 around child trafficking is an issue that we need to add more attention to, and also goal number 12, around zero waste with circular economy. Let's take a moment to add more attention to some of these blind spots that are not getting as much attention. The young people are truly inspiring and are one of the most important and encouraging parts of the HSC experience. And we hope you got to experience some of that during your stay here. Last but not least, the next phase of sustainability has to be distributed, like I said, more practical and truly inclusive. And I'll turn to Isabel to share a little bit about the Women's Leadership Circle. That was also a highlight for us.
Of course, Juliana, and you were there with me at that first conversation we had with the amazing women leaders we convened to this HSC, and it was really a representation of what this conference is all about. The leadership from different spaces was there. We talked yesterday about the presence or not of women leading the AI revolution. And a few issues were touched. First of all, that women are not leading the AI revolution. Actually, some figures were given by the youth ambassador there. And I need to make a parenthesis. Every room that I've been in where a youth ambassador has standed like you did here, I am just full of hope. I mean, I listen to you, and I am just really full of hope for what comes next. So yesterday, in our first session on the Women's Leadership Forum, the youth ambassador was giving some figures. And I was kind of shocked when she said that 11% of women are the leaders in the technical space. 11%. So that is way low than what we have in politics, which is already low, what we have in business, which is already low. Having said that, HSC is not about what's not right. It's about the hope of what can go right in the future, and it's about that presence. And that was fantastic, those conversations that we were able to have yesterday. And Juliana, tell me about your take from that conversation, and with your background in tech, how did you perceive that conversation on the governance and the leadership of women in the technological space?
Thank you, Isabel. So I think one of the things that I came away with is, like Dr. Ngozi mentioned earlier this morning, I think most of us who were there remember she said, we are done with lamentations, right? We are done with lamentations, and we take the opportunity to now figure out what are the next steps in terms of not only changing the ratio, but anchoring leadership in SDG values and commitment to public good and commitment to positive outcomes for society. It is not trivial, because this has to be done in the private sector, in public sector, in large institutions, but also in startups, but also in the whole ecosystem where we're looking at how to support the young entrepreneurs wherever they are. What do they need in order to embody the change that we're looking for? So, and the other bit is also that leadership isn't just about capital. It is also about building up capability. It is about execution, product design, risk-taking, and the discipline of scale. And the private sector is indispensable in helping us to drive this. And we're really, really appreciative of all the private sector actors who participated in a big way from a foundational part of HSC and also as part of the conversations here and after here. And it also means, leadership also means responsibility. It means asking who benefits from investments, managing risks long term. I think I remember someone saying that leadership at this particular time requires all of us to not only be resilient, deal with the changes, but to remain rooted in values. That was a really big takeaway from me, and also how we support micro SMEs and entrepreneurs to keep markets alive, because some of them are quite vulnerable when we have climate shocks, when we have market dynamics that cause a lot of risks. So that was really a great session.
Thank you, Juliana. And I will share one last message, because as you have seen, the moderator has standed there. And when he does that,
of course,
is because time is coming up. So
yes.
I will be brief so you can give a closure message as well. But I just want to highlight also what happened this morning. This morning, a South-North Commission was established. It was established with two co-presidents, a former Chancellor of Germany and a former president of, I will say, Global South, but I need to say Latin America, and actually a neighboring country of my own country, Panama. I was very proud of that, and I'm very hopeful, as I am with the youth ambassadors, with that commission established this morning and the work that they can do, and hopeful that just like HSC is concentrating on impact and launching initiatives like Scaled, which was launched earlier also, this South-North Commission can help us think outside the box, think of impact, think of what Dr. Ngozi said earlier today. We cannot just continue talking. Mm-hmm. We need to move to action, and this is what it's all about.
Over Fantastic. To you, Juliana. And so I have 45 seconds to quickly wrap. And HSC does not end with our final words. It ends with a test, whether we turn our reflections into action, the alliances and connections to collaborations, and meaningful support for change, championing SDGs to actions on the ground. Thank you to everyone who contributed to HSC 2026. Thank you to all partners, participants, and colleagues who will now carry this work forward. I will just invite the HSC young ambassadors to please stand up really quickly so we can give you a big round of applause as we exit that stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing job. Amazing job. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Juliana. Today, we are witnessing how this passion transforming to action, indeed. And dear leaders, if you look around, you can notice a lot of young people who are actually looking at you as their role models. It means a lot. To discuss how we can sustain this momentum, it's my honor to welcome to the stage the chair of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference and the senior fellow at the Oxford Martin School, Achim Steiner.
Well done, my friend. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. And here we are, just 48 hours later, not even 48 hours later, hopefully inspired, motivated, and judging by just these last few minutes of listening to you. And Xana, thank you for being such a role model, not just to young people, frankly, to all of us. Gwanja, to you, to all the youth ambassadors, dear Isabel, dear Juliana, thank you for having just given us a quick retrospective of what has been happening in these halls. I had a speech prepared, but I've actually put it down because really everything has been said that needed to be said. And I think if I go on for any longer, I will only detract from it and dilute from it. So let me just take this opportunity to, first of all, give a vote of thanks. A vote of thanks to all of you who have made your way to Hamburg. To all of you, and you are literally hundreds, who have been curating these extraordinary moments of discussion, reflection, exchange, debate, disagreement, and yet that sense that you actually do somewhere have more in common than you might have thought when you went into a room. I want to thank all the organizations who stand behind a lot of that which made these conversations possible. I want to thank in particular also the teams of the 4 initiating organizations, our colleagues in the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation, BMZ, in the Michael Otto Foundation in the United Nations Development Programme, and also here in the city of Hamburg, who once again have opened their home, their town hall to us and also to the Chamber of Commerce. As many of you have commented, these 2 halls and that courtyard have a strange vibe. You can't escape each other, you meet each other, you just find each other, even if you hadn't thought about finding each other. And yes, you also find drinks and food, and I want to thank the caterers. They have a way of making themselves known to us, especially if they're not there. So to all those, including the ice cream stall, which it took me 1.5 days to finally get to, but thanks to Clara, I managed to get 1 cone. And I hope you have sensed that the sense of hospitality that you have seen here is not an accident. And I want to in particular thank also the staff in our HSC company, in our team that throughout the year makes essentially every moment that we then experience here part of a very deliberate planning effort, including the atmosphere, the culture with which we meet here. And 1,600 participants, another 1,500 online participants. We have seen about 80 sessions convene, and I literally had the chance to today spend time in 2 of them. Not a boring moment. And what I also love very much about the HSC, and I think you can sense it also, we have presidents, we have former presidents, we have ministers, we have scientists, very important people. We have people who will be important one day, but you know, frankly, importance is not what defines your voice. It's actually whether you're willing to roll up your sleeves, get around the table, start talking. And I think one theme that we have tried to make part of that spirit of the HSC, in fact, you as participants have repeatedly spoken to it, and goes again this morning. Let's stop lamenting. It's not to close our eyes to what is happening. We know how deeply in trouble our world is right now, how distressed and how fearful many look to the future, how much our politics is beginning to create this sense that our neighbor is our enemy, that those who we once trusted can no longer be trusted. That trend, that temptation to try and explain what is not happening in the way we want to happen by blaming it on others, is the beginning of losing the capability and the ability to cooperate with one another. I hope that what you take away from the discussions here is not only the substance, the content, the direction, the possibilities, but something that I had always hoped when we began this journey with the HSC, that this is a conference about the future. It is a conference, and thank you, Isabel, I think, and Juliana, you just spoke to it, and Xana, in fact, about hope. Because, yes, we can be very troubled, but we are also in a position to do something about it. And perhaps the greatest thing that we can also convey to people outside these halls, including through, again, the 250 events that were happening and continue to happen in this Sustainability Week here in Hamburg, is that you are not powerless, whether it is the image of a mosquito, and the ability to think that lots of small actions add up to a lot of things. Human history is full of those examples. Let's hold on to these ideas, and above all, this is a conference where we talk with each other, but we also do so with the intent to work and act with one another. So perhaps if I can just make one small recommendation, as you travel home today, tomorrow, later in the week, just contact 2 people that you met at this conference here and make sure that you didn't just say hi and I'll be in touch, but that you actually get in touch. You will be surprised what happens when 1,600 people contact 2 other people, and just do your own math of what could happen by the time we meet again next year here in early summer in Hamburg. Thanks to the city and thanks to the supporters of the HSC, we look forward to welcoming you back and to continue to generate the spirit with which I think we have seen so many things announced and already initiated here this week. This is a conference about how we can do things together, not about how we turn each other into enemies and only competitors. In that spirit, thank you so much. And it is now my great pleasure not just to say thank you for these 2 days, but in fact to open the stage to 3 extraordinary colleagues who will shape and introduce you to where tomorrow's work continues. The Future Economy Day, Thank you once again on behalf of all of us in the HSC. Have a fantastic evening. Thank you. There he is. John, please. Herzlichen Glückwunsch. Alles Weitere bei euch. Alles Gute. John. Well done. Thank you for your message also.
Good. Well, thank you, Chairman Steiner, and congratulations once again on a very successful third edition of the Hamburg Sustainability Conference and for passing on the baton to us to the Future Economy Day. This is a great meaning that you are really willing and pushing forward the integration of the private sector and the business perspective on the Sustainability Conference, which is a great and important sign. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, excellencies, and from our side, we want to say thank you for coming around and for being here in Hamburg. We are very proud as a Hamburg business community. We represent in the chamber 180,000 member companies, and we would like to say thank you for coming and for pushing these important topics forward. You mentioned the building, the connection between the City Hall and the Hamburg Chamber of Commerce. I think this is a unique sign and symbol for the cooperation and the spirit in Hamburg that we share with the government in Hamburg. The connection between these buildings, it's actually one building. It's a connected building. So it's a share. With a little twinkle in the eyes, we say it's like yin and yang. The one cannot be and live without the other. And that's the same from our perspective, from the private sector or the business community with sustainability. Sustainability is the future foundation of competitiveness for the business community, but also competitiveness. If your company is not competitive, it's not sustainable in the future. And that's the perspectives of the FED, the Future Economy Day tomorrow, that we are hosting tomorrow as the joint event to this conference together with ICC and DZ Bank. Thank you very much for this. And John, I hand over to you. And what can we expect tomorrow?
Thanks so much. Great to be here. I think I'm the honorary Australian in the room, so it's great to be part of the World Cup still. So
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I knew that came.
I forgot. And, no lamentations. Okay, you are not victims. You actually got the future before you. We talk about hope. My middle name is Hope. It's John Wallace Hope Denton, and so I do come bearing hope. The International Chamber of Commerce. We are in 170 countries. 70% is in the global South, and we are committed to actually being masters of the future, but also bringing the voice of the private sector, but the action of the private sector to solve the global commons problems that we actually see before us. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the future economy, and I'm going to show you how, at the ICC, we don't have to wait. You can just do things. We are launching Trade Routes Africa to actually join up SMEs through trade corridors, which will increase economic activity. We're launching Trade Routes Americas, which will do the same thing in the Americas. I've just launched in Beirut 10 days ago, Trade Routes Middle East, and I will continue because we can do things. We don't need to wait. The private sector, which we represent, is driven by the need to ensure that there's opportunity for all. And that is the purpose of the ICC, which is why we're actually proud to be aligned with the Hamburg Sustainability Conference, but also importantly, to be part of the conversation tomorrow on the future economy. The future economy will be built by us with you. We are not waiting for governments. Frank?
Yeah, what should the banker add on now? Of course, money, finance. There are modern products, there are great technologies which has to be supported. We will talk about that tomorrow. We will also talk about that in the breaks. So all of you can carve out the day tomorrow and join us. And thanks to the two gentlemen here and their institutions who made that happen now in the third year in a row. And thanks to the HSC and Achim. Great said what you said. Of course, it is a passion in us. It's not the function being high in hierarchy, whether you are in politics, whether you are in the financial sector or in the real economy. It is on us as individuals to make more out of it. And if in these four corners, science not to forget, we find each other and the people with a passion who want to drive and run the extra kilometer, sometimes mile.
Extra mile.
We should do it then, yes. And so I would be very proud in the name of the three of us, of our three organizations, if you come and we discuss that and take some action afterwards. That's also what Achim said, walk the talk and not just talk. And in particular, I'm very happy that we have seen the historical assignment of the South and the North today. And myself, I'm a big fan of the African continent, of the South and Latin American continent, and not to forget Southeast Asia. That's where the future for this planet is for the next 100 years. That make it happen and make sure we're going to leverage what we have developed, at least here in Germany and in Europe, a lot of patents. That's what we can bring to the pot and hopefully finance as well. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Thank you, gentlemen, for this amazing, powerful introduction. Today, we'd like also to notice that we're not only divided to south, to north, to east, to west. We are made of global south, global north, east, and west. United, we heard this word a lot today, unity. And in unity is our power. To bring our hearts and minds together, please welcome to the stage for an artistic closing performance, the incredibly talented spoken word poet, United Nations Global Peace and the UN SDG campaign advocate, Alhan Islam.
Before we named it crisis, we called it morning. The sun arrived softly then, through kitchen windows, across rivers, on the backs of farmers returning home with stories folded into their hands. Children drew it in yellow crayon without fear. See, once, human beings looked towards the sky and saw God in the generosity of light. But now we look up and measure survival in degrees. What a terrifying thing. For the same sun that taught the earth how to bloom to become a warning. And maybe that is the tragedy of our generation, that we learned how to build taller buildings but forgot how to remain small before nature. We extracted and expanded and consumed. We built economies that could predict profit more accurately than rainfall, and now oceans are entering cities uninvited. Forests are becoming memories. Entire communities are learning new words for grief. Wildfire, drought, displacement, heat wave. The earth is speaking in storms now, and still some of us argue over whose responsibility it is to listen. Scientists arrive with data. Politicians arrive with negotiation. Businesses arrive with innovation, and activists arrive with urgency. Yet somewhere between graphs and governments, between profit and policy, humanity keeps forgetting that the atmosphere does not care about ideology. Flood water does not ask who we voted for. Drought does not recognize borders. Heat does not distinguish between the North and the South. And maybe that is why we are gathered here today, to remember each other, to remember that before we were nations, we were people drinking from the same rivers, to remember that before we were industries, we were bodies warmed by the same sun, that before we became divided by languages, religion, economics, or geography, we were simply human beings doing the best that we can to live long enough to leave something beautiful behind. And so maybe the question is not if we can afford not to act, but rather, what will future generations inherit if we do not? What kind of world are we placing into the hands of children we may never meet? Will they know glaciers or only through photographs? Will they recognize the ocean as a wonder, or will it become a warning? Will they know trees or only hear stories about them? And if one day they ask what we did when the earth began asking for help, what will we say? That we were too busy, too divided, too afraid to inconvenience ourselves? Or will they say they chose collaboration over ego, they chose responsibility over denial, they chose courage before it was too late? Because sustainability is not only about protecting the planet, It is about protecting humanity from becoming so disconnected from life that we forget we are a part of it. And maybe that is where hope begins. In understanding that the future is still listening, in scientists and storytellers speaking to one another, in policy learning the language of humanity, in communities remembering that survival has always been collective, in businesses choosing stewardship over extraction, and maybe that is where hope begins. The moment we stop asking who should act first and remember that history will remember all of us together. Because one day, long after we are all gone, someone would stand beneath this same sun. And our hope is they still recognize it as light. Because if human choices helped create many of the crises we face today, then human choices can also help repair them. That is the miracle hidden inside responsibility. It means that the future is still movable. Hope is not denial of difficulty. Hope is the decision that difficulty will not have the final word. Hope is infrastructure. Hope is the reason rooms like this still exist, and maybe that is what winning together means. And so here within these walls, let's declare continuity and commitment as allies, and while we deliberate on building the things that will outlive us, let us not neglect the things that will help us live, so that one day someone can look back at this era and say, despite everything, they still chose one another. And oh, that choice changed the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Alhan Islam, for such a beautiful reminder that finance, law, and medicine, of course, there's noble professions to sustain our life, but culture, art, love, and poetry, this is what we are indeed living for. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, we are, unfortunately, at reaching the ending of our conference. On behalf of the organizers, I want to extend our deepest gratitude to our initiators, to our partners, speakers, volunteers, and the incredible hospitality staff for your energy and commitment. In Kazakh culture, where I'm from, we have a saying that guests makes you happy twice. First time when they arrive, and second time when they leave. But truly, it has been a very joyful and insightful evening. I would now like to invite you to join us for dinner. Please, enjoy the evening. The stage is yours for photos, and do not forget to tag us at the social medias. Hamburg Sustainability Conference 2026 is officially closed. Thank you.